Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Aquarian Series here at ULT San Diego. The title for the presentation this afternoon is Noetic Devotion. And this is going to be given to us by Shobha Sharma and Laura Gray. But before we get started, a reading. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14. The great Brahma is my womb in which I place the seed. From that, O son of Bharata, is the production of all existing things. This great Brahma is the womb for all those various forms which are produced from any womb, and I am the Father who provideth the seed. The three great qualities called sattva, rajas, tamas, light or truth, passion or desire, and indifference or darkness are born from nature and bind the imperishable soul to the body, O thou of mighty arms. Of these, the sattva quality, by reason of its lucidity and peacefulness, entwineth the soul to rebirth through attachment to knowledge and that which is pleasant. Know that rajas is of the nature of desire, producing thirst and propensity. It, O son of Kunti, imprisoneth the ego through the consequences produced from action. The quality of tamas, the offspring of the indifference in nature, is the deluder of all creatures, O son of Bharata. It imprisoneth the ego in a body through heedless folly, sleep, and idleness. The sattva quality attaches the soul through happiness and pleasure. The rajas through action, and tamas quality surrounding the power of judgment with indifference attaches the soul through heedlessness. We'd like to add, finally, that the two ladies, Shobha and Laura, will serve as chairpersons. We don't think anybody could do it any better. We give to you now Shobha Sharma and Laura Gray.
Welcome, everyone. We look forward to your questions and comments after our talk, and we hope that it will be inspiring, just as the reading from the book of devotion, the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita and the voice of the silence are complementary to the secret doctrine and round off the study. So it's important to read those books together. Poem to start, one that has been with me since childhood. No conscious thing beneath this sky will ever cease to be, unending now as thou and I, though forms change constantly. The life imprisoned in dull earth may bloom a lovely flower, so all evolve a fairer birth when law brings forth the hour. Theosophy reminds us that our evolution and the evolution of all lives is not only physical, but also of the mind and the heart. All real evolution begins on the invisible side of ourselves and nature. Then it is reflected on the screen of matter and form. Like the lotus seed buried deep in the mud at the bottom of a lake, we too have entered as spiritual beings into the matter of form. From the voice of the silence, heaven's dewdrop glittering in the morn's first sunbeam within the bosom of the lotus, when dropped on earth, becomes a speck of clay. Behold, The pearl is now a speck of mire. Nature propels that evolution forward, mineral, vegetable, and animal. The monad moves through all the forms of experience. It is never still. It is never the same, one moment to the next. And in the beginning, it is by natural impulse. When the form is ready, the mind is awakened. And upon entering the temporary field, the mind becomes dual. The duality is the mind that is drawn towards the senses and the physical appearances, the likes and the dislikes, and the mind which watches and gains experience. From this point onward of self-consciousness, the entering into the field of the pairs of opposites, of pleasure and pain and good and evil, the evolution is now propelled by self-effort and determination. In the beginning of the voice of the silence, the seeker of wisdom is given the first step, that of discerning the real or the everlasting from the unreal or the temporary. When sitting in contemplation, concentration, or meditation, many thoughts from the field of the senses invade and try to carry us off with distractions and endless amusements, worries, and feelings of countless likes and dislikes. It is only with a feeling of strong devotion that we can begin to quell those distractions. Also, the right performance of duty without any attachment to result. This also silences the impulses of the temporary nature, giving us a calm state that can reflect the noetic thoughts of our higher nature. Nature reveals her secrets only to the purified soul. Our difficulty in understanding the teachings given to us is due to the fact that we must prepare our sevenfold nature to receive those truths. The secret doctrine gives us knowledge of what is possible to know directly from within. But it is our own self-effort of reflection, contemplation, and the clearing of the obstacles of habit and distraction that allows the true understanding to unfold or evolve from within. This is the noetic process. HPB stated that to understand the secret doctrine, we must hold in our mind and heart a position of unity and universal feeling towards humanity and nature. A higher devotion which accepts all and works in all karmic conditions. Noetic is defined as inner wisdom, a direct knowing. It is always there within us. It is a matter of turning towards it, to look within. A Vedantan Swami, in a recent video, stated at the end of his talk that if we are looking outward at things and events, concerned with what others are saying or doing, or not doing, we are being materialistic. But if we are looking at our own mind, we are being spiritual. This is the noetic position. The problems around us cannot be solved from the position of our earthly desires, but only when we lift ourselves to a higher plane can we begin to see the causes of the reflections in the matter called Globe D, or the earth. Mm-hmm. There is a path within us to spiritual understanding. And as a past talk on noetic discipline indicated, There is a process of disciplining the psychic lower mind so that it will reflect the inner knowledge, the noetic mind. In Theosophy, noetic discipline and noetic devotion represent two complementary aspects of the spiritual path aimed at achieving divine wisdom or enlightenment, focusing on the intellectual and devotional approaches respectively. Noetic discipline is the purification of the mind and the heart to maintain control over the lower self, as the voice of the silent states, to slay the lunar form at will. At this time, for us, it is a discerning process that involves self-analysis and adjustment. To do this effectively, we must be aware of our motive, to have a focus. From the Mandukya Upanishad, Mr. Judge begins his article with, having taken the bow, the great weapon, let him place on it the arrow, sharpened by devotion. Then, having drawn it with a thought, directed to that which is, hit the mark, O friend. The indestructible Om is the bow. The self is the arrow. Brahman is called its aim. It is to be hit by one who is not thoughtless, and then, as the arrow becomes one with the target, we will become one with the self of all. The self is the bridge of the immortal. Meditate on the self as Om. Hail to you that you may cross beyond the sea of darkness. The sea of darkness is ignorance, and ignorance is thinking that we are separate from all the other beings. And the cure of ignorance is the highest devotion to the self of all. This is not a romantic idea, but it is one that requires much work and devotion. Noetic devotion focuses on the heart, the will, and a deep conscious connection to the divine or the higher self, the Atman Buddhi. It is less about intellectual analysis. One who has left behind the world of images and ideations. No longer is his mind tethered to any fixed point, either of affirmation or denial. Instructing the aspirant with regard to this hall, HPB gives this advice. Seek for him who is to give thee birth in the hall of wisdom, the hall which lies beyond, wherein all shadows are unknown, and where the light of truth shines with unfading glory. In this hall, shadows are unknown, indicates that we are no longer dealing with idols and images. The realm of direct, indirect perception has been left behind. The mind's processes of comparison and contrast are no more. For here the light of truth shines with unfading glory. It is in this hall that the spiritual pilgrim can know what repose between the wings of the great bird is. The wings of the bird represent the pairs of opposites that exist within the mind. When the opposites drop away, only then is there the possibility of the repose between the wings. In reference to this repose, HPB says, sweet is the rest between the wings of that which is not born nor dies. Have we then, in this hall of wisdom, come to the perception of the unborn and the unmanifested? Has our preparation through the two earlier halls been sufficient to bring us to this higher perception, a perception which is direct and immediate. Rohit Mehta gives us another angle on this when he quotes HPB about this preparation and the miracle of the Hall of Wisdom. She says that it is the uncreate which abides in the Hall of Wisdom, meaning that which is neither born nor dies. A great miracle takes place in this hall, a blending of what is created and that which is uncreate. But before this blending can take place, the neophyte must leave behind the dark garments of illusion so that there is no image standing in the way. In Shakespeare's Tempest, this occurs when Prospero, the magician, leaves the island and sets about to work for humanity. In doing so, he leaves behind his book, his staff, his magic, for he has become wisdom itself. Noetic devotion is a feeling, and all actions require a feeling or a commitment. This devotion prevents practices from becoming empty or cold. It keeps the heart engaged. It is a connection to a purpose of an eternal character. Devotion is a faith in the potential of all beings and a willingness to devote oneself to its unfoldment. Noetic discipline is the work, and noetic devotion is the living agent. Thank you. So, Shobha.
Thank you so much, Laura. I am so glad that even though we didn't plan it such that we don't overlap ideas, I love the way you talked about the process. And I loved all your beautiful quotations. And people may be wondering why we had that reading in the beginning, but that fits in beautifully with what Laura talked about, because we need to go beyond the gunas to get to the stage of noetic devotion. What I shall be trying to do is talk about different kinds of devotion. And so we'll see that there are different meanings for this noetic devotion and the word devotion itself. But really, when I think of devotion, the first person who comes to my mind is my grandmother, who spent hours in a room that was filled with pictures of various gods and goddesses. She was lost to the world. And when she came out, she created wonderful dishes for all of us with her wood-burning stove in the early days. And she gave us all the food. She gave us the food, and after everybody had eaten, she would sit down and eat. In the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Those who eat not but what is left of the offerings shall be purified of all their transgressions." So when I think of my grandmother today, I think of a form of devotion away from the needs of the lower quaternary. And I think this kind of devotion I would call sacrifice. One of the themes we see again and again in the Bhagavad Gita is the refrain at the end of the chapter. The word devotion comes twice. Let me see if I remember how it ends. It says, "Thus in the Upanishads, called the Holy Bhagavad Gita, in the book of devotion, in the colloquy between the holy Krishna and Arjuna, stands the whatever number of the chapter and starts with the word," this is William Quan Judge's rendition, "devotion by means of or devotion through." So the word devotion comes twice. So obviously I went to the Sanskrit translation, and the word that they use is yoga. And I was always intrigued by that. Yoga? for devotion? Well, why not? Because devotion is a discipline. Devotion is a meditation. Devotion is union with the higher, the noetic. And when you look at the translation in English of the word yoga, you have several words for it. You have application, you have use, you have magical arts, and you also have discipline meditation, the word meditation. So we've already seen by these two examples that devotion, the word for devotion can vary. It could be sacrifice, it could be a discipline, it could be a meditation. Now let's go to Shakespeare. Shakespeare is known for his less than 40 plays, but his 154 sonnets are a delight to the ear and soul. Now, a sonnet is usually verse of about, I think, 14 lines, and the last two lines usually have a twist in them. Many of them deal with love, but the bard also reflects on his life and writing. One of them that was read frequently when I was growing up is sonnet number 116. It goes like this. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love when it alters, when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but beats it out even to the edge of doom. If these be error and upon me proved, I never writ, and no man ever loved. Shakespeare here is talking about noetic devotion among two people. So this kind of a devotion includes love and compassion. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about loving your enemies as well, which leads to the true love of all. A unique and remarkable form of noetic devotion that Shakespeare shares with us. Now, the Bhakti cult was a period in India and was prevalent between the 7th and the 12th centuries. Again, the word Bhakti is also a word for devotion. And it stands as one of the most spiritual revolutions in Indian history, transcending all castes and boundaries. And this movement, the Bhakti movement, the devotional movement, rebelled against the strict adherence of the Brahmin classes to the caste system. Unfortunately, it still continues among some Brahmins. Now, the Bhakti cult hit the southern part of India with the Alvars, who were called saints, and later expanded in the north of India. Basically, it underlined a personal relationship between a deity like Shiva, Vishnu, or a Devi or a goddess. And why was that? This was to get moksha and liberation. But it also rejected all the rituals and talked of a simple relationship with the higher, with the Lord, with the Bhagavan. These bhaktas who followed the Bhakti cult during this period emphasized inner purity, and we talked about it a lot earlier, and surrendered to the Lord. Andal, Kabir, Tulsidas, Mirabai, Tukaram are some examples of those who were part of this Bhakti movement. There's one more I shall mention at the end of my presentation. Now, so far, what have we learned about this devotion that is noetic? It is found in true yoga, true love, sacrifice, and surrender to the highest in us. Renunciation of the fruits of action and purity of thought, word, and deed are the foundations of noetic devotion. Now, this devotion can and should become a regular part of our lives. Shouldn't just be in fits and starts. In a book called Flow, the Hungarian writer Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi talks about what makes people contented and happy. They need, he says, inner control. That means control of their inner thoughts and feelings and experience a flow state, a sense of enjoyment, purpose, and feeling. Essentially a form of devotion while performing all kinds of tasks and dealing with people. Now, these could be repetitive tasks like working in an assembly line. I read this book years ago and found it fascinating. Here we see a form of devotion or being in the zone, a form of discipline, yoga. One of the things we need to remember is this is said frequently in all our literature. Damodar Mavalankar talks about it in 5 Years of Theosophy under the chapter, I think the heading is Contemplation. And he says you can live in your daily life and continue to be devoted to what you're doing while you contemplate on noetic devotion. And so I think this is an interesting way of looking at devotion, or what we call being in the zone, right? Now, Bhavani Shankar was a student of Theosophy in the 19th century. And after the departure of H.P. Blavatsky and Damodar Mavalankar from India in 1885, he studied the Bhagavad Gita and gave a series of lectures in Calcutta and Madras, which is now called Chennai, between the years 1914 and 1925. Now, all these lectures were collected and later printed as a book called The Doctrine of the Bhagavad Gita. In the second chapter of this book, he talks about the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about how the mighty wisdom, the exhaustless doctrine of yoga was transferred from generation to generation, and then how the mighty art was lost. And then he also states that there was the need for Krishna to come and share all this with Arjuna. And why was that? Because he was his friend and devotee. Now, Pandit Bhavani Shankar deals with the Nava Vidhi Bhakti here. I'll explain it. He states that these 3 words, literally translated, imply 9 ways of devotion, but he says it is actually 9 stages of devotion. He starts with the first stage and he says, devotion to the higher or the Lord, he calls it Bhagavan, begins with the Pravritti Marga, or living the life of the ordinary man, following the dictates of the holy books, but yet eager and willing and focused to know the truth. So what does he do? He studies deeply the scriptures. This is the stage of Shravana. Shravana means hearing, listening. So it is willing to listen in the true sense of the word, as the Light on the Path talks about. In fact, there was a time when disciples used to live in the house of the teacher or the guru and do all the tasks in the house, meanwhile listening to whatever the teacher was talking about. We know this even in the Pythagoras' school, where the neophyte was not supposed to talk for a few years, but just listen. The Shravana stage. The second stage is called Kirtana, which literally means singing and employs rejoicing in the company of like-minded souls. Now he is ready to talk. The third stage is Smarana, which is remembering, applying, brooding, pondering, dwelling on the noetic. Now, the fourth stage is called Pada Sevana, which literally means serving the feet of the masters. In other words, reverence at the feet of the masters. The love devotion gets deeper, all part of the bhakti movement. All the bhaktas in the bhakti cult went through these stages. Now, as the devotion and love grows, the thirst to lose himself in this life urges the disciple to reach the fifth stage, the stage of archana, which is sacrifice. His lower self is forgotten. He has sacrificed his lower, and he starts entering the sixth stage of vandanam, true reverence. And he feels the unknowable Lord everywhere and prostrates before things animate and inanimate. What does that mean? That means there is reverence for everything because you understand the unity of all. Now, the seventh stage of dasya or servant overcomes him. At this stage, the distance between master and student, master and servant, pardon me, teacher and student becomes less and less. Now, the duad becomes the one, and the eighth stage is reached of sakyata or friendship, union with the Lord. This is the eighth stage. Now, the eighth stage, Bhavani Shankar gives an example from the voice of the silence. He says the first, the devotee grows like the object of his devotion and says, according to page 3 of the voice of the silence, just as the form to which the clay is modeled is first united with the potter's mind. Then we are coming to the ninth stage, which is the complete unity, and it's called Atma Nivedana. And we note in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is when Arjuna is able to say with confidence, Nashto Moha, which means all my doubts have been cleared and I understand everything and I will do according to your bidding. Bhavani Shankar says, it is the final surrender of the devotee's self to Bhagwan absolutely and unconditionally. Thus is devotion the potent power that leads to and makes possible the utter self-renunciation and self-surrender, which are the only means of self-illumination. I shall end my presentation here with a story about a true devotee called Nandanar. Nandanar grew up in the 8th century in South India and was part of the Bhakti cult that I talked about earlier. He was later in his life called Tirunalai Povar, which translated in my language, Tamil, means he will go, the great saint will go tomorrow. And where will he go? He will go and get into the noetic level. He will go into moksha or liberation. Now, Nandanar was born an untouchable or low-born outside the four castes of the caste system. Gandhi used to call the outcasts Harijans, children of God. Today they call themselves Dalits. Nandanar from childhood was ever focused meditating on Lord Shiva. However, the Brahmins would not let him enter the temples and they were in strict control of them all. But in spite of that, he used to hang around the temple premises and stand outside and sing the praises of the Lord with abject devotion. The story goes that he once visited a city called Tirupungur to get a glimpse of Lord Shiva. But in every Shiva temple, if one goes to in India, you will find a bull which is called the Nandi, blocking the view of the Sanctum Sanctorum. And Nandanar is so sad that he cannot see the vision of the Lord. So he just sits there and feels miserable that he cannot see the Lord. Now, what happens is he starts singing again. And as he sings his soul stirring song, the Lord literally orders the great bull to move aside. And then he is able to see the Lord. From there, he went to Chidambaram, another city in South India, which is famous for the image of Lord Shiva in the form of Nataraja, which is the dancing Shiva. It's a very famous place, and I remember going there with my sister, but it was so difficult to get to see the image of Nataraja. So you can imagine how Nandanar, who was an untouchable, an outcast as they are called, had no chance of seeing that. So, but he is so tired after his trip, he just fell asleep there. Lord Shiva came in his dream and told him to enter a flaming fire. Now, then the Lord Shiva appeared before the astonished priests and ordered them to create a fire, and Nandanar entered the fire readily in devotion and in adoration of Lord Shiva. The story goes that he relinquished his illusory body and came out as a saint. The temple priests now had to acknowledge him as one of theirs, and he was then ordained as one of the Nayanars or saints. Now, this fable or story illustrates how Noetic devotion in all its aspects breaks barriers artificially introduced in the world. Love, discipline, sacrifice, continuous longing for something much beyond this workaday world is woven into Noetic devotion. Thank you. So I think we are both ready, we can, help each other.
We have a quote from HPB that Maluka gave us in the chat.
Wonderful.
And it sums it up beautifully. It says, love and compassion are the noetic actions of the soul, which brings the heart closer to reality.
Wow. Beautiful.
Wow, isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
So this idea of the reading that was read by Monica of I think it's from the Mundaka Upanishad. Is that what it's from?
No.
Or no, it was from the Gita.
Gita.
That's right. But you did mention, somebody mentioned the thing about that the arrows are sharpened by devotion.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could talk about that in relation to the connection of yoga and devotion. In other words, the sharp arrows would be able to find union with the target. They wouldn't bounce off, right? If they're sharp. That's about as far as
to mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which brings to mind a lot of our thoughts when we give our thoughts to other people. Sometimes they bounce off because we're not saying them with the devotion. We're not saying them, what is it that we have to make harmless our speech? And I think that making harmless our speech is giving our thoughts through devotion rather than through the mind. We give them through the heart. And Mr. Judge, I think in one of his letters, mentions something to that effect, that unless we're in that heart position, we should not speak.
Mm.
And that heart position, of course, as Shobha pointed out, is devotion itself.
Mm. May I add something? I was just thinking about, I don't know, I always think of the light on the path, but those four sentences that are the second paragraph in the light on the path that starts with, before the eyes can see, must be incapable of taste, talks about the eyes, the ears, the speech, you know, and when are we ready to be near the masters? Feet must be washed in the blood of the heart. The heart comes there again, you know, and MC calls it, Mabel Collins calls it the energy, the almost like the virya energy, you know, that blood of the heart. And uh, I just remember something we talked about yesterday in our Gita class about the need for viraga and virya to work together. Remember?
Yes.
So I think the noetic part of us needs. In fact, as I was giving the 9 stages of devotion, I couldn't but help remember the paramitas. You know, they're all. You see echoes of it even in those 9 stages of devotion, because they all require so much of purity of thought, word, and deed. And the hitting the mark that you talked about so eloquently is part of that. And I thank Luca for that beautiful quotation. It's so apt.
Welcome, and you both did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was fun. We recommend everyone get involved and take up the assignments. There is much learning to be gained.
Yeah, no,
Much learning to be gained through it. So, and you know, in remembering some of my first talks, they were only about 5 minutes long. You know?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, ours had to be. We would have to memorize either the first fundamental or the second fundamental. Second fundamental was easier than the first to memorize. And it was just nerve-wracking to do it, even that.
Yes.
Not that this isn't nerve-wracking, but it's a different kind of nerve-wracking.
It's a discipline for sure.
Yes.
And
who do we
putting
start
the
with?
3 fundamentals in your own words, they come to life.
Yes.
Come to life. But Desiree,
go ahead, Desiree.
Please join us.
Hi, that's beautiful. Hi. And such beautiful words from the Bhagavad Gita and the voice. There was one statement in there, and I know Laura, in your presentation, even said it was interesting, that line from the voice, that we are to destroy even the memory of desire.
Yes.
Stopped and thought about that. And it's one that I often think about too. And I know that in Shobha's presentation talked about memory as part of our meditative practices. What do you think he means, or they mean by that line, to even not even be able to relate in memory to desire of any kind?
What do you think, Shobha?
You know, I think one of the, it's all when you write something, you think in a particular way. When you reflect on it, you think in a different way, right? And so I think it's part of the discipline, right? It's a form of discipline, working on that, on the memory, you know. In fact, when you think about Patanjali, of the 5 things that one has to work on, when he talks about the modifications of the mind, memory is one. It's a big part of it. Have you ever I mean, of course, you know this. I'm not giving you anything new. Whenever you try to close your eyes and they say, don't think of pink elephants, those are the first things that come into your mind, right? Yeah. And so memory is such a tricky thing, really is a tricky thing. And you sit down to spend some time focusing. What happens? Oh, did I leave something burning on the stove? Did I leave the door open? Is the iron on? I mean, all this goes on within us, and we need to shut out all this if we are to focus on what's going on, or just go ahead, check and make sure everything is okay and come back and sit.
Yeah,
Right?
you're not thinking about it anymore. I want to say it has to do, just in reference to the way it's expressed in the voice, it has to do with our moving beyond duality. Because if you're experiencing, you have to go even beyond experience, experiencing experience. Because even experience is kind of an objectification. You become the experience in a sense when there's no more a reflection or something out in the future, when that becomes so natural to an individual, perhaps maybe that's what they mean, that it becomes irrelevant to you at some point, any of these I would guess more human desires. But it almost seems to me it has a little bit to do with duality, and also memory itself, just like our own constitution, has 7 degrees, or probably countless degrees, but within a 7-degree archetype. And so I'm wondering what type of memory we are to engage in meditation, and what are the degrees that they present. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing, memory is. Like you say, it's kind of tricky. It really, memory to me is a really interesting phenomena, I think.
Yeah, I was just
sorry,
thinking.
go ahead,
Yeah, go
Shobha.
ahead. You go ahead.
No,
Please, please.
no, I was just thinking, Shobha and Desiree, that memory and desire puts a limitation around us, which, and of course, as we see with the wings of the great bird, to rest between the wings of the pairs of opposites, one must get beyond memory and desire.
Well,
but go ahead,
bring
Shobha.
this up just because those who have passed and come back say, I remember this. I remember this. So it wasn't, it's a deeper memory of going home. It's not even something they can really explain other than, I know I'm home. This is a memory too. You see, so I'm thinking there's different degrees of memory, and some memories are so synthesized and so exalted and pure that maybe this work on memory that we're to engage in meditatively is really approaching that synthesized, truer memory of what we really are. And I'm not saying that what they're experiencing is the end of all ends. I'm just saying there's got to be different levels of memory, just like there are different planes of experience, different fields of experience.
Shobha.
Perhaps. Here's the thing why I say perhaps. Because I'm using this mind of mine to try to understand all this, right? So I don't know. I have to be honest and say, I don't know. This whole thing is linked with the consciousness, right? What level, plane of consciousness are we in? Which is, we are in a different plane of consciousness when we go to sleep and dream. Yesterday, I got up, this morning, I got up, and I remember, it's funny how you remember early morning dreams. And I said, oh, wow, what is this? What is this running around? Where was I going? What was I doing? But it all seemed so normal and perfect in the dream. This is what I mean. When I come back to the waking state, I am not able to interpret it the same way I was interpreting it when I was there. It's like, what was it, Confucius or somebody who said, I dreamt I was a butterfly and I came back and now I'm this man, and now I don't know whether I was a butterfly or a man, that kind of, I don't know where I am. Who am I? Um, I'm reading this amazing book that is very famous. I'm sure many of you have read it. It's a book called it's a book by Viktor Frankl about his experiences in the concentration camp, and he talks about how living there with extreme suffering. He says suffering is important. Emotion is a form of suffering. He says that extreme emotion you feel, but it teaches you so much, and your idea of time varies. He says a day feels longer than a week. I mean, when he says that, it's like, what? But it's what you are going through and how you are reacting to it. So I do see the point that memory can be of different levels, but the only analogy I can draw is from the dream state, which I remember. I don't remember my deep sleep stage. Maybe some of you do. I don't. But I do remember the dream, but I do realize that my memory and my understanding, that consciousness that I had in that dream, is different from what I have when I recall that dream. So there is a difference. That much I can tell.
Beautiful.
Thank you, lady.
Something we can add to that, about memory and dreams, because when we get to the dream just before we wake up and we've come from that deep sleep state, the memory becomes an obstacle in that it colors the dream. In other words, sometimes the dream, we have to get behind the dream and try to remember what was in the deep sleep state, because it has, through the dream, it has maybe, because of memory and desire, become distorted. So can we learn to be aware and discern between the distortion in the dream and what was trying to come through from the deep sleep state? So we can see where desire and memory become an obstacle in that, the three planes of human life. So, but thank you very much for that wonderful question, and Shobha too. So, a comment from the lodge.
Yes, it's Monica here. And first, let me just say this was such a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. I have two questions while I'm here, so if you don't mind, the first the first one has to do, Laura, with you talking about slaying the lunar body. And I don't know if I've ever been completely clear about that, but it would seem that this is a necessity to get to that state that both of you have been talking about, the noetic. Could you explain that a little bit? And then I'll give you the second question.
Okay. Give a little bit of an idea, and then I look forward to what Shobha might say.
Okay.
The lunar form, we think as terms of lunar as the astral. It is a form made up of our skandhas and our previous experiences. And if we take our identity from our previous experiences, our previous memories, our previous desires, if that's where our identity lies, then we're not taking the position of the solar noetic God that we are. And so we have to work through the lunar. Of course, it's there, but we should not take our identity from it. Another name maybe for the lunar is the personality.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Shobha?
Yeah, it sounds, I was just thinking of the astral, and I'm also thinking of what it says in the voice, right? You learn from the astral, but run away from it. Don't stay there too long, right? There is a lot of learning, but there are also the Mara, Mara, the great tempter is there, right? And we need to be careful. And we learn and we run, right?
Learn and run.
Yeah, learn
Love
and
that.
run. Yeah, but again, all the examples I was trying to give was of, I think of all the people I worked with teaching English as a second language. I spent a lot of time in factories teaching English as a second language, and they were repetitive work. Of course, that's what it is. And I thought if they could be happy doing it, what a lovely stage, because you're not focused on complaining and saying, oh my God, this is so bad, and you could be singing, you could be doing something and be happy. Like like the animated version of the seven dwarfs going off to work, right? There is a joy in work, and I think 90% of us who've worked probably is like, oh, do I have to get up in the morning and go to
really
work? Yeah. So it's this joy in doing what you have to do, which is part of life. Washing the dishes, cleaning the clothes, cleaning the room, washing, whatever we do, all the workaday stuff. And that keeps coming up here when I was reading Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, because he talks about the need to find happiness in what you do, even in that. So where is the lunar body there? I don't know. Where is the lunar body there? If you're, when you feel the unity of all, you're in a zone. What does it mean being in a zone? When somebody is knitting continuously or doing a quilting or whatever, work, art, or they're doing creating a painting, what zone are they in? And I think that's the destruction of the lunar body. And also the story of Nandana talks about the illusory body, right? So maybe that's the lunar body. He gets rid of his lunar. It's all very symbolic. He doesn't have to jump through a real fire. But,
Yes.
it's a question of letting go of the lower, letting go of the longing that he is not able to see the Lord, right? He has let go of everything now. He's in a state where I don't need to. I will see him always. I don't even
Yes.
worry about the bull now, the Nandi that's there.
Mhm.
Because that was a lower quaternary that was blocking him. Think about it. Think about the story in those lines. The lunar body was blocking him. That was the Nandi. So he couldn't see the glory of the Lord.
Well, thank you both for this particular explanation of that. Very important. I think I can't help but think that there is a pop version of these teachings that can have you totally immersed in. Yeah, I remember you from that lifetime. Oh wow, I'm so glad we're back to get all of that. As lovely as it is, it can be to some degree, I would think, a hindrance to what is required of us here, that both of you have been explaining so beautifully. One more thing, Shobha, that recounting your grandmother's Dharma, a meditation, just so gorgeous. Thank you. That just
Thank you.
is reverberating in my heart. Now, lastly, the term vairagya, is that discernment? Is that what that term means?
Well, yeah, it means so many things. Yeah, viraga is a beautiful word. In the paramitas, they say viraga. In Sanskrit, they say vairagya. It's the same.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same word, which
Okay.
is detachment. But remember, I always say, illusion conquered, truth alone perceived. Indifference to pain or pleasure, but illusion has to be conquered, right? That's
Yeah.
the critical piece. That's the noetic piece. You're getting closer to the noetic.
I see.
Yeah. So illusion conquered, truth alone perceived. So
I see.
that's that beautiful viraga, which is the middle balance point. And the interesting thing is, in the Buddhist version, you don't see the word viraga there. It's kind of blended with the other paramitas and comes in a different form.
So
Well, we
beautiful.
have Maluka,
thank you.
then Jero, and then Kim.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, Monica.
Mhm.
Maluka.
Hi, I was thinking as you were talking, and very interesting topic, that maybe one of the reasons why recommending that we should do fasting in addition to meditation, perhaps is to control and you know center in the inner man, because when you're fasting, you are not indulging the body, or
Mhm.
and doing all the things we do, because we seem to eat in this society a lot more than we should, consuming more than we should, and then we produce all kind of illness and
Yeah.
have the karma of the animal karma if you eat meat, etc., etc. So I was thinking that maybe that might be one of the ways to maybe try to start controlling that astral and the physical as well, and give
Yeah.
more power to the higher. I mean, it's just a thought. Then the question I had was regarding love and compassion. We know that if there is anything in the world that follow that in great harmony, is Mother Nature.
Mhm.
Look at the behavior of the animals. I mean, they have to eat, and they sometimes kill because of that, but not because I don't like you, or you different race, or whatever.
Right.
Right. And then the other thing, Mother Nature. Look at the trees. They produce fruit for us, oxygen,
Yeah.
and they filter all the pollution. That's why all the time a tree fall down, that pollution goes back into the air.
Right.
And HPV said that the oak trees represent Saturn, and they are the trees that receive the most lightning. And as you know, pardon me, not Saturn, Jupiter. Jupiter is considered the planet of the of this. Of these different strikes all the time, of the thunders, and she said that all the time a oak tree fall or is cut is going to follow drought. So, and it seems like the nature had the right program. We are the one that alter that all the time, right? And then the planet, the same thing. They continue doing their own orbit and providing what is necessary for the harmony of the universe. But we are humans, the one that is continue to disrupting all this. I just wonder what it's going to take humanity to get into that state of mind, so that we can help one another, because we are we are actually uh, shorten our time on this earth by doing all these things. So our progression of evolution is going to take longer. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on that? What can we do?
I'll be quick. I'll just
Okay.
say that nature unaided fails, and man has to do it self induced, self devised. And he has the potential. He and she have the potential to do it. And so, which is why we do all this, because we need to realize that we have it in us. And the voices are there. With all the noise that is going on, we hear some wonderful things. It is happening every day. Even in mainstream press,
Yes.
the meeting between Mamdani and Trump was an incredible thing. It was an incredible I thought it was a revolution. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe tomorrow things will go back to what they are, but that was a beautiful moment, which shows the potential of men, the potential of human beings. And there's a lot going on along with that mainstream noise. There's a lot going on where people are concerned about so many things and trying to do things about it. The environment. There was a big meeting in Belém, Brazil, just recently. So things are going on all the time. There's a clash between these two, but there are moments when you see that man is able to behave with such dignity and presence of mind. Why can't he do it continuously, right? That's what we want. So I think nature needs our help. Nature alone cannot do it.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Shobha.
Unfortunately, we're pretty much out of time.
Could we just take a quick, Jaro, could you give a quick comment, and then Kim, and then we'll close? Keep it quick.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to add, bhakti, the version of bhakti yoga found in Tibetan Buddhism is probably where in Buddhism you have the three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And in Tibetan Buddhism, they add the fourth jewel, the Lama or Guru. And so just like bhakti in the Hindu tradition, where the Guru is like the visible embodiment of God, like Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Shiva. In the Tibet tradition, they view the Lama not just as a teacher, but as Buddha in the flesh. So they do some a liturgy called Guru Yoga or Lama Chopa, and they practice their bhakti with their viewing their Guru as the Buddha.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you. There is a book available now from India. They've published the Bhakti Yoga book by Shankar, and it's available in the ULT in India. So anyone that's interested in studying it further, we recommend that you, and I believe it's also available online for anyone that wants to study it. Kim, you have the last word, Kim.
Thank you very much. This is Joe and Kim Miller on the road in
Hello,
California.
Joe.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Oh, good. We just wanted to thank you very much. We're on the open spaces, and every thought that you two spoke tonight was the sharp arrow. Everyone stopped. It was very, very moving. And thank you for invoking Shakespeare in his sonnet. It made me think, love is not love which alters when an alteration
Yes,
finds.
yes,
And it made me think of we can study our lives in terms of the fleeting loves and attractions we have felt and the values we have felt that passed away, and bring us to contemplation of what does it mean to give birth to lasting devotion.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, San Diego, for making this opportunity for us.
Thank
It's
you.
been wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, we had a good time. Thank you.
Yeah,
Laura.
it was a good time.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, obviously you guys had a good time. What the joy, the absolute joy.
That's great.
All right. Oh, thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
And
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye,
thank
ladies.
you. Thank you, our
Good night.
two
Good night.
amazing speakers. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.